My upgrades are Invincible, Chapter 35, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. There was a reason why the dry monster stone cores were actually tossed into one area. And that was simply human laziness. Grinding down a monster stone for a civilian wasn't at all an easy task, especially when it came to larger, more potent monster stones that came from monsters like minotaurs and the floors past Rivera. Although the guild repeatedly asked everyone not to just throw away used monster stone, they were just like back in my old world, ignored for the most part when it came to asking or even demanding the exact proper methods of recycling and trash disposal. But there was just one major issue that divided the discarding of a used-up empty electric battery, and a dead empty monster stone. Monsters, if they ate other monster stones, even empty ones, could mutate and become an aberration that would become much stronger, and gain special abilities according to their monster type. And worse, become more intelligent and cruel. And thus it was common for low-ranked weak monsters to sneak in and eat the dead monster stones. And likewise, some adventurers are both looking to hunt an aberrant for high-quality excellia, and people like the Artemis Familia just want to cull the native surface monsters. The ground around the monster stone dump wasn't marshy, so Tina was able to walk without sinking into the mud, though the ground did still have a good softness to it in the areas that hadn't been worn to oblivion to the large carts pulling trash and whatnot. The corpse pile is just over there as well, Tina said quietly, and as we passed through a path, I couldn't help but swallow as Tina's words were no lie. Down a long road was a massive pit that looked to be a quarry, and Tina confirmed my thoughts as she said that the quarry was where the stone for the walls of Ororia was mined up with the gods' directions. Then once the city was enclosed, they used the quarry as a mass grave, and occasionally some mages and workers threw pitch and burned the piles of bodies down a more manageable stack, Tina said quietly. Is this insanity what made Evelus pop up? I thought as I swallowed down my bile at the distant sight of a pile of humanoid corpses more than 30 meters tall, and the pile spreading out further and further as it reached the bottom. Disgusting, I said frankly, shaking my head and looking around, and I frowned, saying, where are the palums and other rejects you said were going to be an issue? Tina scoffed and looked at me with a teasing smile. Jake, we have been walking past them all day in the marsh. They have reed snorkels and when monsters or unaware people walk by, who aren't adventurers, they will stab them and drag them into the marsh to drown in the mud. Tina said, and I looked back to seeing all those singular reed patches with cattails growing up like typical pond-edge growth, and I swallowed at the thought of lying in the muck for hours. You aren't that crazy, are you? I asked with some dark humor, and her smile died, and her green eyes turned the glowing crimson of the blood fury spear. Jake, I choke down your above-average human-sized dick every morning that goes past my collarbone. All in repayment for you giving my life worth living. Is my determination any less than theirs when I gladly slaughter monster and man beside you? She asked rhetorically. I had literally nothing to say about that. So I kept walking, and although I had the thought of fusing the corpse's pile, that sounded fucked up even for me. And what would I even get by fusing thousands of corpses together? It's not like even if I got a super corpse, I could do anything like reanimate it, as I certainly didn't know any necromancy. Eventually, though, we reached the monster stone depository, and as we came closer, I realized it was built inside another quarry, and the massive hole in the ground was covered in endless monster stones of all sizes. Which was awesome and all. But the quarry was massive, easily a couple dozen miles wide in all directions, and like a lake, it sloped downwards towards the center, being deeper and deeper with large monster stones towards the center. As I took in the quarry properly, I could then pick out the monsters that had called the dump home. There were the oversized armadillo-like monsters in the hard armor that I could clearly see, but coming out of one of the limestone caves was a trio of bipedal lizard humanoids with a wooden shield and a stone-like weapon. Lizard men. I grunted with a frown as I took in the monster that was only found past Rivera in the 19 to 24 floors of the dungeon. Tina and I could handle hard-armored with little issue now. But lizard men had the physical abilities of a decent level too, along with monster ferocity, and loved to work in groups, which made them dangerous. And that was just the normal lizard men. As Tina added on. The leader is an aberrant. She said, and I looked at the lizard man who had prominent blue scales, which contrasted with the other lizard men who had red scales, and then my lips twitched as Tina added shamelessly as she channeled her blood fury spear to increase the potency of her vision. The leader is a female as well. Do you want to fuse her to your infant dragon? She questioned with a bit of teasing. This little troll knew I was a steady person. And thus wouldn't want to tangle with a monster clearly out of the level 1 zone. But as I looked at the lizard woman, I realized that killing and smashing a lizard man to death, even if I used magic, would give us a massive upshot of Excelia, which would be enough to pad out my stats for my first level up to level 2. Not to mention the lizard men weren't far from us, and if we started raking in the monster stones, it was inevitable for us to get their attention, so it was best if we could make an alpha strike on them.